Let them eat cake. A callous remark, apocryphal perhaps, yet it encapsulates the vast chasm that had opened up between the rulers and the ruled in France. The year is 1789. France, a land of exquisite beauty and unparalleled cultural brilliance, is a kingdom teetering on the brink. The air crackles with discontent, fueled by economic misery and a yearning for change. The cost of bread, the staple of the common man, has skyrocketed. Empty stomachs and empty purses are a dangerous combination, and the simmering anger of the people threatens to boil over. The French monarchy, oblivious to the gathering storm, continues its lavish existence at Versailles. King Louis XVI, known more for his extravagance than his wisdom, has left France deeply in debt. His successor, Louis XVI, well-meaning but indecisive, inherits not only a depleted treasury, but also the pent-up frustrations of generations. Marie Antoinette, his queen, a symbol of opulence and perceived indifference, becomes a lightning rod for popular resentment. The stage is set for a dramatic upheaval, a revolution that will shake France and the world to their very core. It is in the turbulent crucible of these times that the French Revolution will be forged. It is a story of the human spirit pushed to its limits, of courage and cruelty, of idealism and betrayal. It is a story that continues to resonate centuries later, reminding us of the fragility of power and the enduring allure of liberty. Join us as we delve into the heart of this epical event, exploring the lives and legacies of those who dared to dream of a different France, a France reborn in the fires of revolution. French society in the late 18th century was a rigid hierarchy, a pyramid divided into three distinct orders known as the estates. This structure was deeply entrenched, with each estate having its own unique privileges and responsibilities, creating a society that was both stratified and unequal. At the apex stood the first estate, comprising the clergy. They enjoyed immense wealth, vast landholdings, and exemption from most taxes. The clergy wielded significant influence not only in spiritual matters, but also in political and economic affairs, often acting as intermediaries between the monarchy and the people. Next in line came the second estate, the nobility. Though less numerous than the clergy, they too possessed significant privileges, including tax exemptions and exclusive access to high offices. The nobility held key positions in the military, judiciary, and administrative sectors, ensuring their dominance in the governance of the country. Together, these two privileged orders constituted a small minority of the population, yet they controlled the levers of power and benefited disproportionately from the existing system. Their wealth and influence allowed them to maintain their status and resist any attempts at reform that might threaten their position. At the base of this societal pyramid, bearing the weight of the entire structure, was the third estate. This vast and diverse group encompassed everyone else, from wealthy merchants and lawyers to urban artisans and rural peasants. The third estate was the backbone of the French economy, responsible for producing the goods and services that sustained the nation. They constituted the overwhelming majority of the population, yet they shouldered the heaviest burden of taxation and possessed little say in the governance of their nation. The taxes they paid funded the lavish lifestyles of the clergy and nobility, creating a deep sense of resentment and injustice. The third estate was a microcosm of French society itself, riven by internal divisions of wealth and status. Wealthy merchants and professionals often had more in common with the lower nobility than with the peasants and laborers, leading to tensions within the estate. Yet, in the face of the common enemy, the absolutism of the monarchy and the privileges of the upper estates, a sense of shared grievance and collective identity began to emerge. This burgeoning solidarity was fueled by the realization that their collective strength could challenge the existing order. The intellectual ferment of the Enlightenment, with its emphasis on reason, individual liberty, and popular sovereignty, further fueled the growing discontent within the third estate. Enlightenment thinkers argued for a society based on merit rather than birthright, inspiring many to envision a new social order. The writings of Enlightenment philosophers like John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Montesquieu, though often censored by the authorities, circulated widely, challenging the status quo and inspiring calls for reform. These ideas spread through salons, coffee houses, and pamphlets, reaching an increasingly literate and politically aware populace. These ideas found fertile ground in the minds of educated members of the Third Estate, who began to question the legitimacy of a system that granted such vast privileges to a select few while relegating the majority to a position of subservience. The growing awareness of their rights and the injustices they faced galvanized them into action. The French monarchy, blind to the writing on the wall, clung desperately to its waning authority. King Louis XVI and his advisors failed to recognize the depth of the crisis, believing that minor adjustments could placate the growing unrest. Attempts at reform, often half-hearted and poorly executed, only served to exacerbate the existing tensions. Measures such as the imposition of new taxes and the calling of the Estates General were seen as too little, too late, and only heightened the sense of urgency for more radical change. The financial crisis, fueled by extravagant court expenditures and costly foreign wars, pushed the government to the brink of bankruptcy. The American War of Independence, in particular, had drained the treasury, leaving the state in dire financial straits. In desperation, Louis XVI summoned the Estates General, a consultative assembly that had not met in over 175 years. This move was intended to secure support for new taxes and reforms, but it instead provided a platform for the Third Estate to voice their grievances and demand change. This fateful decision, intended to shore up royal authority, would instead set in motion a chain of events that would culminate in the overthrow of the monarchy and the birth of a new France. The convening of the Estates General marked the beginning of a revolutionary era, as the Third Estate seized the opportunity to challenge the old order and lay the foundations for a society based on equality, liberty, and fraternity. The Enlightenment, a philosophical movement that swept through Europe in the 18th century, provided the intellectual tinder that ignited the French Revolution. Thinkers like Voltaire championed reason over tradition, challenging the absolute authority of the church and the monarchy. They advocated for individual liberty, religious tolerance, and the separation of powers. Their ideas, disseminated through salons, pamphlets, and clandestine publications, resonated deeply with the populace yearning for change. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a towering figure of the Enlightenment, articulated the concept of the social contract. In his seminal work, The Social Contract, he argued that governments derive their legitimacy from the consent of the governed. This radical notion that sovereignty resides in the people, not in the divine right of kings, struck at the very heart of the French monarchy. It provided a powerful justification for popular resistance against tyranny and inspired revolutionaries to demand a government accountable to its citizens. The American Revolution, a beacon of liberty across the Atlantic, served as a potent example for the French. The spectacle of a colonial uprising successfully challenging the might of the British Empire emboldened those who sought to break free from the shackles of absolutism in France. Many French officers, including the Marquis de Lafayette, fought alongside the American colonists, returning home imbued with revolutionary zeal and eager to implement the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity on their own soil. The French Revolution was not merely a product of abstract ideas, it was also driven by concrete grievances. The economic woes of the late 18th century, exacerbated by a series of bad harvests and rising food prices, hit the poorest segments of French society the hardest. The extravagance of the court at Versailles stood in stark contrast to the misery of the masses. As bread became scarce and expensive, so too did patience. The cry of liberté, égalité, fraternité soon rang through the streets of Paris, a testament to the potent fusion of Enlightenment ideals and popular discontent that would propel France into revolution. July 14, 1789, a date etched in the annals of history. The day Paris, the heart of France, convulsed with revolutionary fervor. The Bastille, a forbidding medieval fortress looming over the city, became the focal point of popular anger. More than just a prison, the Bastille represented the oppressive might of the monarchy, a symbol of arbitrary power and royal tyranny. Its towering walls held within them the anguish of countless political prisoners, their silenced voices echoing through the ages. As tensions reached fever pitch, rumors spread like wildfire through the city. The king, it was whispered, was amassing troops, preparing to crack down on the burgeoning revolution. Fear and defiance mingled in the air, creating a volatile cocktail. On that fateful morning, a vast crowd, armed with whatever makeshift weapons they could find, surged towards the Bastille, their collective roar shaking the very foundations of the ancient fortress. The governor of the Bastille, ill-prepared for such an onslaught, panicked. Shots rang out. The crowd, initially hesitant, surged forward with renewed fury, fueled by the taste of blood and the intoxicating scent of freedom. The battle raged for hours, a chaotic melee of desperate defenders and an unstoppable tide of humanity. Finally, the Bastille fell. The governor was seized, dragged through the streets, and brutally murdered. His severed head, impaled on a pike, became a gruesome trophy of the Revolution's triumph. The storming of the Bastille, though strategically insignificant, held immense symbolic power. It shattered the aura of invincibility that had long surrounded the monarchy. It demonstrated the collective might of the people, their willingness to fight and die for their freedom. News of the event spread like wildfire throughout France, igniting a wave of popular uprisings that swept away the old order. The Bastille, once a symbol of oppression, became an enduring emblem of revolution, a reminder that even the most formidable bastions of power can crumble before the unyielding will of the people.